Welcome to The Attention Shift, a podcast where sports media gets debated, memed, duetted, stitched, and reposted faster than I can say multi-platform media. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Attention Shift podcast. I'm Jo Redfern.
And I'm Ed Abbas.
And as ever, we're going to do 5 stories, 5 minutes each. And of course, it's been Super Bowl weekend, so we couldn't really have an episode of the podcast without diving into the Super Bowl. And there's 2 or 3 stories that we're going to get into about the Super Bowl. But first, I'm going to kick off with creators. This was dubbed the Creator Super Bowl, wasn't it? 160 creators involved, it is rumoured. I spotted a few of them. I'm not sure I could quite count 160. I don't know about you.
I literally spent all day today trying to find stuff.
I thought what was interesting is that I hadn't quite expected is that rather than the creators being concentrated around the Super Bowl, they all seem to throw the creators at flag football. I saw Drewski, J Balvin. There was Jesser involved with that. So why do you think that it was all pushed towards the flag football?
Yeah, they appear to have used flag football as almost like the anchor point for all of these creator relationships. Yeah. As much as creators were making content around that Super Bowl week, because obviously there's a lot of stuff goes on in the host city during the course of the week, which has gone on for years, to be honest. Like traditional media used to turn up in hotels and do interviews with players. Now they've been using, obviously, these creators to go out and create different formats that is predominantly going across the social channels. But flag football seems to have been that place that they really, really brought them all together because I guess it's one of those things that I'm not sure anyone's going to pay a huge amount of rights for, but they can kind of do what they want with it. It's not going to offend anyone.
And so NFL, presumably the flag football is theirs. It's kind of like the American football with training wheels kind of product. Wonder if NFL sees that flag football as the way to bring in not just young audiences, because obviously it's safer to play. So from a participation point of view, it's something that is already played for younger audiences because it's kind of low contact. But I hadn't realised that it's also, they're pushing for it to be in the 2028 Olympics, did you say?
It's going to be in the Olympics, yeah. It's already confirmed. It's already confirmed. So there's an element of there, the NFL's not getting into the Olympics any other way, right? Because it's not played all over the world at a professional level, but they've done a deal with LA Olympics so they can have flag football in there because it does get played. I don't know the exact criteria. I think it's got to be played in a certain amount of territories by a certain amount of people and certain demographics. Right. And somehow they've managed to persuade the Olympic movement that flag football is. So it's the way that the NFL manages to get a variant of their game into the Olympics. So using creators to build a global interest in the sport may well have been one of the things that they used to pitch the sport being in the Olympics.
I think that's really clever. I quite like that because you've got creators who can play flag football because they're not going to get hurt. And it's going to be quite easy for them to play. And then there was a picture I saw doing the rounds on Instagram of Drewski sat kind of on his butt in the middle of the field today. Yeah. So it's very shareable. I think it's really canny, starting to build global awareness and fandom for it now, given that it's going to be in the Olympics. Because let's face it, if they can build a valuable sports property now in advance of the Olympics, then there's money to be made with rights in the future, surely. And I mean, the NFL's not backwards in coming forwards with when thinking about monetizing what it owns, right?
Yeah, look, and it wasn't even just creators, right? Even Benson Boone was taking part in it as well. So it ends up, it's that culture, celebrity, lifestyle crossover that they absolutely love, right? And the NFL loves doing with all of the fashion parades before players go to games, and they're all wearing different stylish clothes. It allows them to lean into that and go anywhere they want with that too. Like I said, Cardi B turning up slightly sozzled, as I read before the game as well. It just allows, I think I was reading here as well that Method Man was one of the official photographers for it. It just allows them to go anywhere they want with it, and the purists are not going to say to them, "You're ruining our game." So it allows them to play and to test things out, see what works, what doesn't work. So I think he's given them the ability to be able to do that.
Yeah. The creators, I mean, even today, and I imagine it'll go on for the next couple of days, and we're on Monday. So there's the creators, they're just streaming out clips now and content from both that flag football event and from the Super Bowl. So they're still keeping up the momentum, but by all accounts, and I didn't watch it, the game itself was not the most exciting game. So actually this is a way to keep interest going for, outside of what was ostensibly a pretty defensive heavy, quite boring game. Apparently YouTube still advertised on TV though, on traditional networks to try and reach existing broadcast audiences. So it can't do without TV just yet.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Nothing more impactful than TV advertising, I saw it get said. Not certainly not by me, but obviously it gets said a lot by various different bodies around the world. And interesting that they're still spending that kind of money to drive audiences to YouTube. And obviously there's been a discussion that's been going on the last couple of weeks as well, hasn't there, right, about YouTube measurement versus TV measurement. Interestingly, Neil Mohan said that the flag football game was the most live-streamed flag football game on the platform ever. I'm not sure how big the bar is on live streaming of flag football games. But yeah, I went having a look today at the NFL's own stream and also the creators that co-streamed it, the team captains, and the numbers were hidden. So we don't actually know how many people did stream that, even though we were told it was the highest concurrent live stream. So I'm sure there's going to be stuff coming out of the next few days. Obviously, it's only, the time of recording this, we're not far off the Super Bowl having taken place. Yeah. But there's a few different sources of news that I'll be giving out over the next couple of days to see exactly what comes out and to give a sense of the kind of traction that these different things did get. I know it'll be a massive success because I don't think anyone's going to say it's not.
No. It will be interesting to see what spin comes out of it, because the season opener in Sao Paulo was live streamed on YouTube and it wasn't the draw that they perhaps thought it would have been.
Yeah.
The numbers on YouTube were soft. Now, that just kind of goes to show that unless there's stakes, unless it's a big game, and unless both teams have got something to win or lose, it's very difficult to draw a lot of atypical consumers to YouTube. That said, YouTube is YouTube TV. The debate that rumbles on. If YouTube wants to be considered TV, and it certainly seems like a lot of the messaging that they put out is positioning themselves as TV, and they want TV budgets, they want TV ad spend, they want to be considered as a place for media companies and not just single creators uploading videos of their kittens, then they've also got to be held to the similar standards of measurement as TV. And that was the issue with them withdrawing from a certain barb measurement in the UK. I mean, to be fair, what the barb was measuring wasn't great. It didn't provide a great holistic picture of YouTube viewing. But that said, they're not doing themselves any favors by withdrawing, sending a cease and desist. And then today we see on the Super Bowl, they're hiding numbers of their creator partners. So it's a little bit, I'm a big proponent of YouTube, but at some point they got to go, okay, we're going to allow slightly more transparent measurement of what we're claiming.
Yeah, look, I see the challenge of YouTube almost trying to use other people's measurements to compare, because every country has their own measurement. There's not one unified global measurement for what traditional media viewership looks like. So, if you think about the number of countries in the world, they're going to have to be beholden. And I'm sure partly there's an element of like, why are we doing this to ourselves to have to be beholden to that when who's making us do it? We're already driving ad money anyway. Do we really need, it's one of those, do we need the traditional measurement to drive our ad money, or is it the other way around? And they're probably making the decision, we don't necessarily need it, we're already driving it. I think that's probably why they've gone down that road. Yeah.
And it throws into relief, and we'll not get it into it here, but this wider look at it, industry-wide look at measurement, because you can't just measure lots of things in isolation and then start trying to rank one against the other. Not when people's consumption habit are fluid, and they might consume content and TV at one part of their day, but they're on YouTube in another. Well, actually, in aggregate, then, what is the value of their attention, rather than dividing it up by arbitrary measurements that have been around for years for TV viewing and for social viewing. So, I mean, that's a bit of a rant. A favourite of mine at the minute is just this lack of consistency in measurement. And I can kind of see why YouTube get annoyed and then just withdraw from it. But it doesn't mitigate the need for it, because this is... advertisers and sponsors want to know a return on their advertising spend and their investment, don't they? So we've got to be able to prove that.
And another perspective, I think, as well, from a content creator perspective on YouTube, who I've spoke to a number of them who have found it really, really difficult when they're trying to drive sponsorships around their content because there is no unified measurement. Obviously, a lot of the YouTube stuff gets done, whether it's programmatically or otherwise. But these individual creators who are trying to do their own sort of baked-in sponsorships find it really, really hard to compete with traditional ad sellers, as it were, because there's no unified measurement there. So it's almost like their numbers are not believed. And I think not having this unified way of doing it doesn't help them in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, I agree. So in terms of what, where YouTube's going, it's really interesting how the rhetoric is changing. You've got Neil Mohan, who, talks about YouTube being TV, and they've done a partnership with the BBC. They've got traditional media companies on there. At the same time, they're saying that they've paid out, how much was it? 100 billion to creators?
100 billion, yeah.
Yeah, 100 billion to creators. Creators being the foundations on which YouTube was built. But now they're talking about they're moving it towards kind of being a more, I don't know, I'm going to use the word traditional, which sounds weird, talking about YouTube as a traditional platform. But it happened to Netflix, right? Netflix were this pretender platform. Nobody believed that they were ever going to be taken seriously. And now in 2026, where we talk about Netflix alongside other established, some would say traditional media players. So is this just another step in that evolution? Is YouTube, what started off to be a UGC media platform, now becoming trad media?
I guess the question is YouTube trying to intentionally losing its essence? Ultimately, it's a platform based on community, conversation, opinion, interactivity in some way, shape or form. A lot of the people who've grown out of that platform, like the Mr. Beasts and close to home, like the Mark Goldbridge of this world and, people we know, ultimately they're having a constant conversation with the audience, even though there might be hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people watching that stream concurrently. And I often talk about myself about you've got to make content for YouTube, not just put content on YouTube. And then you see the BBC specifically training people to be able to make content for YouTube. But then the things that are coming out right now feels like it's counter to what it is right now. I think that could be a dangerous move for them to start making it more like TV, which some of the things we're seeing sounds like that.
Yeah. I do think that I don't think they want to be TV as in the old way that TV was made, but they want to be perceived as TV in the sense that they want to be, there's a sense of validation. I think they're seeking validation because validation will help them draw ad money away from traditional TV. But there's also, you've got YouTube TV that just launching their specific genre bundles, aren't they? So YouTube TV, I think, is launched some sports bundles. So again, they're acting almost like an aggregator and a cable network. Okay, that's only in the US. We've not got it outside of the US. So even calling it YouTube TV kind of belies what they're trying to be and become. But in a way, I do wonder if that is at odds with those creators on whom they rely to keep uploading content that is the real gravitational pull behind attention. Because if it's just a question of migrating the likes of ITV Studios and Channel 4 and BBC to YouTube, then that's not sustainable. They need those creators that bring in all of those millions and billions of eyeballs.
I think those kind of people are the ones that give it its stickiness, right? And probably, I'd imagine, have longer average viewership than content you just sit down and watch with no any real reason to engage with it. And I think they see themselves now. They're not necessarily in a battle with traditional media. They're in a battle with Netflix and Amazon, and maybe to a lesser degree Spotify and those kind of Facebook, Meta. Don't know, but I think didn't Neil Mohan talk about now that Instagram's now TV because of Reels.
Instagram's developing a TV app, as is TikTok. So they're all fighting for that real estate on the biggest screen in the corner of the lounge room. What's interesting is this it's been notable in the last 3 months that when they talk about competitors, YouTube mentions Netflix and Netflix mentions YouTube.
Yeah.
They don't really mention the other streamers or the legacy media, even if they've got streaming platforms, which is interesting.
Well, what was interesting as well, Joe, is the fact that obviously when Neil Mohan's talking about, like you say, Instagram becoming TV and TikTok becoming TV, is that the reason that they streamed the flag football game on Shorts? Because of that vertical video? Because they feel like that. I mean, look, we've all seen it, right? And you know, we put content out on Shorts as well, and you get thousands of views on Shorts, but it's just views, right? I mean, the engagement, and I'm not, it's not just us saying that. You hear so many people go, oh, when everyone talks about Shorts views, everyone go, oh yeah, Shorts views, anyone can get them. It feels like it's a bit throwaway.
I wonder if that was a bit of a test, because vertical video is a hotly contested battleground at the minute. Everybody's talking about micro dramas, which is kind of clouding the issue, really. Micro dramas are designed to be sticky. It's gamified. It's 90-second clips that end on a cliffhanger, and you've got to pay some money to watch the next one. I mean, it's so
built
formulated
for short consumption, right? Not like the flag football game, which is however long that is.
Yeah, but there's some debate as to whether vertical video and that scrollable consumption pattern would work for sports. So I do wonder if that was a bit of an experiment by them. Can you maintain and hold attention with a live sports game by chopping it up into short kind of snackable sections? They did, interestingly, it was High School Musical's anniversary. I think it was 20th anniversary last week.
Yeah.
And they streamed the whole movie. They broke it up into like 2-minute segments and put it on vertical. And a lot of people watch the whole thing in those chunks. So they're doing it with movies. They're doing it with micro dramas. Do you think that there is maybe just a bit of experimentation in, could you stream a live sports game in vertical scrollable chunks and maintain attention? I'd be fascinated to know if that worked.
Yeah. What I was going to say, what is interesting with all of these creator collectives, as well as they're being called, obviously NBC have done a similar kind of creator collective set up for the Winter Olympics, and Snoop Dogg's out there doing his thing. I'm not even sure if Snoop Dogg's working for NBC this time. I think he's just gone because he just loves the Olympic movement now. But he's been omnipresent everywhere. But what I did, again, similarly, I've been off sick today because I've not been very well. So I've been trolling YouTube and watching the Winter Olympics mostly. But I went having a look to see, okay, now we're up and running, what kind of content are some of the names associated with the NBC Creator Collective doing? And I found some of the content that Carly Kelsey had done with her husband, Jason. And to me, it was that usual setup, like we have in the UK, where the BBC will send a celeb. And I did see one the other day, actually, a celeb who went and did some tobogganing. Is that what you call it? Carly had gone with her husband and they tried out a sport. And that was one of the main videos that they'd done on YouTube. Kind of like, that's not, for me, that's not the purpose of YouTube. And that just feels like sticking TV on YouTube. So the question is, Joe, are broadcasters just using creators rather than working with them?
Yeah. or they're taking people who are TV or used to be TV or TV kind of closely aligned with TV and just calling them creators and sending them out and saying, oh, just put this on the YouTube channel.
Is there any point, though, in making them do TV content when that's not necessarily what they built their audience for? And is there a danger for those creators that if they're not careful how they make that content, they're going to switch their own audience off as too? Because I think the audiences will put up with the commerciality that comes with those creators because they understand it's free and they're not, But if it starts to veer away too much, like on most of the social channels and video channels, the algorithm doesn't work in your favour if it's not what he expects from you.
Well, you see, I think here is the difference between influencers and creators, in my view, because a creator to me is somebody who grew their audience by originating content and being original. Yeah. So they've come up with whatever their shtick is, they've refined their format, whatever, and they've built their audience that way. That to me is a creator. And normally they are native and they've always worked on YouTube and maybe are now at the stage and size and scale that they might be branching out. Influencers, I think, come from another source altogether. Their trajectory is different. You think about Kylie Kelsey, or you can think about the Kardashians, or anybody else whose name begins with K, but they have come through. They're not native YouTube creators. They didn't ply their trade there. And I think there's a subtle difference, because it affects how they're perceived by their audience, but also how they're used by traditional media. Because I don't think traditional media still really knows how to deal with true creators, except, you know, the Jessers and the Mr. Beasts, and they're the ones who are now ostensibly mainstream media companies. But on the whole, they don't really know how to deal with creators, but they feel much safer with the Gary Linekers of this world, or the Kylie Kelseys, who have always been in around TV, who are almost media trained, and they'll go to them first. I don't know. That's the difference to me. I don't think a lot of these creators I would call creators, particularly not when they're used by the likes of Peacock and NBC Universal.
Yeah, I think influencers tend to. Whenever I think about influence, I always think about someone who's quite willing to endorse a brand if the check's the right size, and I think that's probably doing some a big disservice. So, if you've got any problems, speak to producer Will. Don't speak to me.
No, right.
Whereas creators have generally, their content's been good, and that's what got them found. I.e., it's engaging, it's orientated towards building communities of people who have maybe similar views. It's, should I say, it's a bit more pure in that sense. It feels like that. And like, look, I might be totally wrong, but that's my view of it.
No, I think I would agree. And I think you're more likely to get a creator turn down a brand partnership or a gig that doesn't feel natural to them or their audience than an influencer who is very much a paid gun for hire. That for me feels like it's the difference between the two. But what do you think? I mean, going back to Kylie Kelsey, do you think it was very prescriptive what they asked her to do? Do you think that will have been all agreed beforehand, and it's not really what she's been, you know, what she does best and what she's got famous for?
To be honest, when I went on there to have a look at what she'd been doing, my initial response was I was really disappointed, because it just felt like nothing new. Nothing, plenty of stuff you see every time there's a major tournament comes around, and it doesn't matter what sport it is, right? A traditional production organization will go, who can we go and get that can come and try this out or do that feature to try and look progressive and different. But the reality is it feels like it's been done before. So that was my initial response. But then it was like, it was done really, really well. She's having an experience which is different. Then I start thinking to myself, is it any different than some of the creators that we're seeing going behind the scenes at boxing matches where they've just gone around with their iPhone and they're showing things behind the scene? I think it feels a bit more creator oriented when they've got their iPhone in their hand and they're doing it like that. It's a bit shaky camera than when it's shot with a very expensive film crew and beautifully put together.
Therein lies the difference.
Yeah, it's too polished for me. It's not. I don't think you get credibility by doing it like that. But I'm not Kylie Kelsey. I'm earning all that cash. So what do I know?
Yeah, but she, like you said, she will have had a very TV production set up around her. Not a creator who's learned how to get compelling content on their iPhone and normally has gone back and edited it themselves and uploaded it. That's not what she's about. So it's very different.
Absolutely. So then, Joe, last talking point of this particular pod. So it's a hot potato, this one in the industry right now. So Six Nations are now live in the UK. BBC and ITV are co-broadcasting it, and ITV have made the decision to do picture-in-picture advertising for this edition. A lot of what has been talked about is it's to protect its free-to-air nature on UK terrestrial television, but it's been fair. I was going to say the reaction to it's been mixed, but it hasn't, because I think almost universally, I think Will was telling me earlier that there was some questions asked by Rook. I'll get my words out properly. 96% of respondents said they didn't like it.
Yeah, I think from what the chatter I heard, it was pretty universally despised. There was, I didn't see it, but I was following the chatter on some sports WhatsApp groups that I'm in. And there were people saying how they found it really off-putting. There were others obviously defending it. Normally the ones who work in some kind of sports media, sponsorship, kind of advertising sphere. I can kind of see their point. You know, we live in an advertiser-funded world now. And sports is one of those places where ad breaks are not commonplace. So you've got to find another way in which to embed your message. But it does sound like it was a bit clunky, right? Tell me how it showed up when you were watching.
Yeah, a bit clunky. I mean, yeah, I must admit, I was watching it too and went, no, not like that. I mean, because I wasn't sure how they were going to do it, and maybe they'd said in advance how they were going to do it. And I was actually asked. I did an interview with Insider Sport about it as well, and they asked me my opinion on it as well. And I said, look, I said, they've absolutely got to innovate with advertising. We've got to think of different ways of doing this. There are breaks in rugby that you don't have in football that would probably align with doing some form of advertising, but the devil would be in the detail. It depends how they executed it. And how they executed it universally annoyed pretty much everyone in who are rugby fans. But I think
why tell me why it jarred so much. I mean, you and I did have a chat about it because it was the fact that audio was interrupted that was the thing that really jarred you. Given that actually listening to live sport it's almost as much a part of the experience as watching it, right?
Yeah, it was that. I think you could see how, they did, obviously, you had the video side-by-side effect, so you could still see the game, but as soon as that ad started, I think it was Samsung and Virgin Airlines were the two advertisers. The audio started, and it totally detracted. It's almost like it was almost irrelevant that the game was still on there, because ultimately your mind was taken towards that. Now, look, someone will argue, well, you've got great brand recall there, Ed. You remember it was Samsung and Virgin Airlines. But then a lot of people have said, I will never buy a Samsung TV or book with Virgin Airlines ever again on the basis of that. The audio, I think, was the thing that really... Yes, you noticed it because of that, but it's the thing that really took you away from the game, that you may as well... It's almost like you may have well just gone to an ad break, whereas I think there are other ways of doing this, whether you do inverted Ls. I think BT Sport a few years ago did this thing which was almost like on a diagonal, where you could see an ad, but ultimately you still could see what was going on with the game as well. Because the reality is there was nothing happening there, right? They were on the pitch and you were waiting for something to happen anyway. You had the window for doing it. I think you just felt like, because they cut away from it so much, and it's almost like you are going to watch this. That's the thing that really, really jarred. But
two questions. Is this something we're just going to have to get used to? I mean, let's face it, we're having hydration breaks in the World Cup. It's not as if the NFL and the NBA don't stick ads all the way through their live sports, and the US seems comfortable with it. Is it something that we're just going to have to get used to? Is it just because we're not used to it? Or does it need refining?
I think it needs refining. I think the reality that they've done it now, and lots of people, humans don't like change, and we've never had it like this. Whereas you go, like I said, you go to the US and you watch any US sports, and it's ridiculous the amount of ads you see. Right, it really is irritating. Whether you go in person or whether you watch it on TV or stream it, like it's literally ad after ad after ad, and it's too much. And I don't think we'll ever get to that point, because I think with the way that we do TV here, I don't know. I think our standards are just different, but I think the reality is I think they are going to do more things like this, but I think there's lots of other ways they could test it. And I think, again, if they just said to the viewership, we're going to do some of these things, I think they'd probably get a little bit more sympathy than they have. But I get it, it's difficult for them too, because the reality is they can say, well, look, we tried to put it out there, we tried to warn people, but no one listens in advance. It doesn't hit until it hits.
I wonder if there's a way that they could A/B test different types of it. I mean, that's one of the things that YouTube does well, isn't it? You can A/B test thumbnails, you can A/B test different things.
Yeah, well, they'll be able to. If you think about ITV, they do have the regions. They also have, obviously, ITV STV. There's nothing stopping them. Potentially, there's nothing stopping them A/B testing something like that to see what kind of reactions they get. Even if it was between Scotland and England, right? So ITV, they're not. They don't. The feed is not broken down in the same distribution as perhaps Sky can with the Sky box, but they certainly can break feeds down to a regional basis where they could do that. But I think ultimately the horse is bolted now, right?
It's not going anywhere, is it? It'll probably just have to evolve to something that's less intrusive, or we're just going to have to suck it up.
I think the interesting thing is do they continue to get the same level of vitriol throughout the Six Nations, or does it start to diminish as the Six Nations goes on? And I'm sure they have got research people looking into this throughout to see actually if the mindset starts to shift and if people start to get used to it. Like I said, I think I don't think innovation's a bad thing. Again, I didn't love the execution of it, but over time we'll get used to it and then we'll just find something else to moan about.
Well,
on that note,
you're right on that note. Yeah. Okay. Well, so that was the latest episode of the Attention Shift podcast. He's Ed Abbis and I'm Jo Redfern. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can contact us at hello@attentionshift.media, or you can stalk us on LinkedIn and send Ed abuse that way. But tune in next week for some more chat, more stories, and let us know what you think. So that's it for this episode of The Attention Shift. Remember to like and subscribe and listen in next time. And do let us know what you think on hello@attentionshift.media. That's hello@attentionshift.media.